Lots and lots of stuff. In just a minute, we're going to talk with a very good friend of the late mayor of New York City, Ed Koch, my friend Bob Weiner, who is a Democratic strategist and owner of Robert Weiner and Associates, a Democratic strategy consulting firm. But he and Ed Koch had worked together. They'd written some op-eds together, and in fact, Weiner, early in his career, served as a legislative aide when Ed Koch was in Congress. So Koch died today at the age of 88. And we'll have him on with us in just a couple of minutes, so hang around for that. Also coming up, we're going to be telling you about an event at the Naples Depot Museum later today. Bill Barnett will be along as well with his roving report, and we'll check in with Alan James in the 8 o'clock hour as we look at what's ahead on the live entertainment calendar. And there is a lot of stuff going on, too, I don't mind telling you. But happy to have with us on the phone this morning our good friend Bob Weiner. Bob, kind of a sad day for you, I guess.
Well, and Dave, you alerted me to it. I rolled down to my computer, turned on my email, and there was your note. And then I looked, and sure enough, 10 minutes ago, ABC had put out the story that Ed had died.
Yeah.
The funeral is Monday. I was Ed Koch's congressman, mayor of New York's legislative assistant when he was in Congress. And I'm saying this as I also feel enormous sadness, Dave, because we stayed close, and my wife and I had dinner with him a couple of years ago at Sardi's, the famous restaurant in New York with the caricatures on the walls. And we purposely, he asked me to pick the place, and we had dinner right under his picture as mayor, where they have the 4 or 5 mayors' humongous poster-sized pictures on top of their other caricatures. So we purposely had dinner. We're at a table. I told the maitre d' at Sardi's to go ahead and pick the place right under his photo. So then we took a picture of sitting there under his picture while we were having dinner. And but we also co-authored op-eds. That's what I do in my life now after I left the White House, when I became a staffer long after I worked with Ed. And we did 3 op-eds together, typically on his issues, on home health care, on protecting people with AIDS from discrimination, and on, I don't even remember what the other one is, so I'll have to look it up. But he was just a wonderful, earthy, candid, funny guy, mission-driven. His conversations with Bella Abzug were legendary. You could hear Bella screech over the phone in the next room where we were in the next room as the staff, while Ed would calmly ask her, before Ed himself ran for mayor, "Bella, how's it sexist for me to support another woman, Bess Meyerson, for mayor?" Bella was also running. And it was a case of 2 liberals locking horns, of course. But
yeah.
Ed considered himself a practical liberal. Bella would take positions regardless of the likelihood of success. But you could hear Bella screeching while Ed was being, rational. And
he was arguably, wouldn't you say he was arguably the first New York mayor who really understood the power the media had to help him drive his agenda? And that's the funny thing, because in Congress he wasn't very media-driven. He became that way when he was mayor, and in New York, you can't survive without the media. No, absolutely not. You've seen the newsreels of him standing on the street corner saying, "How am I doing?" He was just. Well, that's the classic question. He was a populist. And the only answer to "How am I doing" was he did great. And at the end, I visited him in City Hall when he became mayor. We emailed regularly, and to the end, he loved doing movie reviews and political issue commentaries and right. Sending those to his thousands of friends. And so, but that was his classic question. The thing he did was to stand at the subway and say, "How am I doing?" And well, I don't know what else you can say. Well, I remember. I was just mentioning earlier in the show. I met him I didn't meet him. I shook his hand. 1986. Yep. I now know what year it was. The New York Philharmonic did a concert in Central Park, and I was there for that. And he was working the crowd like nobody's business. He was working the crowd. They loved this man. Yes. Absolutely loved him. And then you look at him going on to be on the People's Court and all of these other things that he did. And that was a wild one when he did People's Court, and he was good at it. And you know something? I don't watch the People's Court anymore. I have a close association with that show, but if you watch the People's Court at the end of the show when they're out talking to the litigants in the case, they have the photos on the wall of all the judges who've been on there. Ed Koch, Judge Wapner, Jerry Scheinlin, who is a friend of mine. And you can see Ed's picture prominently displayed on the wall in every episode.
I tell you what, if you said anybody other than Koch and Wapner, I wouldn't know who the judges were. But
well, Jerry Scheinlin.
I'm impressed you know them.
You know who Jerry Scheinlin is. He's Judge Judy's husband.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he was a judge for, I think, 2 seasons on the show. But anyway, so what do you think Ed Koch's legacy will be?
Well, he had enormous impact on Florida. This is I'm writing up a little statement right now. He'll have enormous impact on President Obama. You remember when Obama said that Israel should return to the 67 borders? Well,
yes.
Ed went ballistic and endorsed an alternate candidate for Congress, a Republican, who opposed Obama's position, and then talked with the White House. And I worked with Ed on that, and I told him that this is a disaster. I raised his objections in the message strategy calls that we had during the presidential election. And Obama then, as a result, gave a speech at the United Nations that was totally the opposite side, and he had a flip on the issue and talk about Israel's security and strength and how we had to protect them and let them do what they want. It was, and then only then did Ed endorse Obama for president in this, in the election and come out for him and then campaign for him in Florida and run around to the various communities in Florida. So. He did that right to the end, and he was emailing me just weeks ago on distress over Hagel and the positions, and they've actually got Hagel now reversing on and making sure that he says that he's.
Well, I'm glad you brought up Hagel because I wanted to just quickly before we go here get your thoughts. There are a lot of people who are. Raising eyebrows this morning, saying he did not do such a great job in the confirmation hearing yesterday.
Well, that's what White House staff are saying, too, that his performance wasn't perfect, but we roll forward.
You think he's going to be confirmed?
Oh, I do. Probably 60-40-ish or 65-35-ish. There'll be, some blowback. But when Schumer came out for him, that was sort of the end of the ability to oppose him. I think, yes, I do think he will be confirmed. I'm not thrilled with the appointment. I think on war issues, I think he's great. I think he's, it takes us away from this military-industrial complex kind of appointment that just keeps the Pentagon going and going and going and going and bleeding our Treasury when now we have a special ops intel strategy, which is the one that got bin Laden, which is so much cheaper and more effective, and we don't need all these military contractors running around with a big footprint, huge number of people in our wars. Obama makes the point that we spend more than the next 10, and now the numbers come out, it's the next 13 countries combined in our military, and no country can succeed in its budget. The Soviet Union had to drop its military and slice it to pieces before it could survive economically recently. You can't live the way that we do with that kind of a military operation. So Hagel's good for that, but on Israel he was terrible. I think, though, now with the pressure, he and Obama both will have to be better.
All right, well, we'll be very interested to see what happens in the vote, and I guess that's the next step. Bob, thanks a lot. Our condolences to you and your passing of your good friend Ed Koch, and we look forward to your statement.
I will be going to the funeral on Monday. I'm very sad about it. Ed and I had dinner regularly, and like I said, when we went to New York, we still got together and had dinner, and it was like that was part of my job was to baby. I hate to say this openly on the air, but part of the job of the legislative assistant was to babysit the member of Congress, and that meant I had dinner with him several times a week. So
good. All right. Well, thanks a lot.
Fun. It was a great experience, and I loved doing it with him.
Appreciate your time this morning.
Okay. Yep. Bye.
Bob Weiner on the Dave Elliott Show. It's 7:17, and we'll be right back.